I'm going to share my experience and reflections on living alone in my golden years in a simple and warm way. Shall we begin? Freedom to be yourself. Oh my boy, what a delight it is to wake up and decide what to do with your day. I remember when I was younger, always rushing to please everyone. Now living alone, I can tell you, it's a blessing to be able to be myself without having to answer to anyone. For example, the other day I woke up at 5 a.m. with a sudden urge to bake a cornbread. And you know what I did? I got up and went to the kitchen. The smell of freshly baked bread filled the house, and I was able to have my breakfast with this warm delicacy. What a luxury, isn't it? Or when the urge to watch an old movie in the middle of the afternoon strikes, I don't need to negotiate with anyone. I simply turn on the TV and settle into my favorite armchair. It's a freedom that's priceless. And meals? It's wonderful to be able to eat what I want, when I want. If I feel like having soup for dinner at 5 p.m., that's what I do. If I want to try a new salad recipe for lunch, no one will turn up their nose saying they prefer rice and beans. This freedom extends to all aspects of life. I can decorate my house the way I like, listen to the music that pleases me, and even walk around the house in my pajamas all day if I want to. It's as if each day were a blank page, and I am the author of my own story, peace and tranquility. My young friend, you can't imagine the value of peace and tranquility until you truly experience them. Living alone has given me that in a way I never imagined possible. I remember one afternoon not long ago when I was sitting on the porch watching the birds in the garden. The silence was interrupted only by their singing and the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. At that moment, I felt such a deep peace that it seemed as if time had stopped. This tranquility allows me to appreciate the little things in life, the aroma of coffee in the morning, the sound of rain on the roof, the warmth of the sun on my hands as I read a good book. These are simple moments, but so precious. At night, when I lie down to sleep, there's no noise from a TV left on, no loud conversations, no worries about what others are doing. Just me and my thoughts, reflecting on the day that passed and dreaming about what's to come. This peace helps me even in the most challenging moments. When I feel anxious or worried, I can simply sit in silence, take a deep breath, and reconnect with myself. It's as if I have my own refuge, a safe place where I can recompose myself and find balance, personal growth and self-discovery. You know, my dear, it's never too late to learn and grow. Living alone has given me the opportunity to rediscover myself in a way I never imagined possible at my age. For example, I always had a curiosity about painting, but never had the time or courage to try. Now, with all this time for myself, I decided to buy some canvases and paints. At first, I confess I was a bit intimidated, but gradually I gained confidence. Today, I have several paintings I've done decorating the house, and each one tells a story of my journey of self-discovery or gardening. I always liked plants but had never really dedicated myself to it. Now, I have a small garden that's my pride and joy. I learned about different types of plants, how to care for them, and even started growing some herbs to use in cooking. It's amazing how something so simple can bring so much satisfaction and learning, but it's not just about new skills. Living alone has given me time to reflect on my life, my values, my beliefs. I started reading more, meditating, questioning things I used to accept without, thinking, it's as if I'm getting to know myself again, but with the wisdom that only years can bring. I remember one night when I spent hours looking at old photo albums. It was an emotional journey, reliving memories and reflecting on the choices I've made throughout life. I realized that some decisions that once seemed wrong to me actually brought me to where I am today. This reflection brought me a peace and acceptance that I had never experienced before. Control over the environment. My son, what a joy it is to have total control over your space. When you live alone, your house truly becomes your kingdom, and you are the absolute king. I remember when I decided to redecorate my living room. I always liked vibrant colors, but my late wife preferred more neutral tones. Now I painted one wall a deep blue that I always admired. I put my favorite photos on the walls, arranged my books the way I like, and even bought a recliner. That's my special reading corner. In the kitchen, I organized everything my way. The pots are exactly where I find most practical, the spices are all at hand, and I have a special corner for making my homemade bread, a new passion I recently discovered. And the bedroom? Oh, it's my sanctuary. I chose a plaid comforter that I always liked, put an antique lamp that I inherited from my father on the bedside table, and even hung a painting I made myself on the wall. Every detail reflects who I am and what I like, but it's not just about decoration, it's about creating an environment that works for me. For example, I turned the guest room into a small office. There, I have my computer, where I learn new things every day, and a table where I do my puzzles. It's my space to exercise my mind. And the best part? If I want to change something, I can do it at any time. I don't need to negotiate or ask for permission. If one day I wake up and decide I want to rearrange the furniture, I simply do it. It's a freedom that brings a wonderful sense of control over my own life. Financial independence. My young friend, living alone, has taught me a lot about finances and independence. You know, when you live alone, every penny counts and you learn to be more aware of your spending. For example, I started making a detailed monthly budget. At first, I confess it was a challenge. I had never been very organized with money before. But little by little, I got the hang of it. Today, I know exactly how much I spend on everything, and that gives me a sense of control and security that's priceless. One of the things that surprised me the most was how much money I saved by cutting unnecessary expenses. I remember when I cancelled the cable TV subscription that I hardly watched. Instead, I subscribed to a much cheaper streaming service. With the difference, I started saving a little every month to fulfill an old dream: visiting the Grand Canyon. Another thing I learned was the importance of having an emergency fund. When you live alone, there's no one to bail you out if something unexpected happens, so I started saving a little every month for these situations. Last year, when I suddenly needed to replace the refrigerator, I was glad to have this money saved up. But you know what's most rewarding? Being able to direct my money to things that really make me happy. Since I don't need to worry about supporting a family, I can invest in my hobbies and interests. I bought a guitar and I'm taking online lessons. I also signed up for a cooking course that I always wanted to do. These are small luxuries that bring me a lot of joy. And I can't forget to mention the peace of mind that comes with this financial independence. Going to sleep at night, knowing that your bills are paid, that you have a roof over your head and food on the table, all achieved through your own effort, is a wonderful feeling. Improvement of mental health. My dear, living alone has been a true balm for my mental health. You know, when you have your own space, without the pressures and expectations of others, you can really focus on taking care of yourself. I remember when I started practicing meditation. At first, I thought it would be difficult, but over time it became an essential part of my routine. Every morning, I sit on the porch for 15 minutes, breathing deeply and letting my thoughts flow. It's amazing how this helps me start the day with more calm and clarity. Another thing I discovered was the power of writing. I bought a nice notebook and started keeping a diary. In it, I put my thoughts, worries, joys, and dreams. It's like having a friend always available to listen to me without judgments. Sometimes I reread old entries and I'm surprised at how much I've grown and changed. Living alone also allowed me to establish a routine that works for me. For example, I discovered that sleeping and waking up at regular times does wonders for my mood. I don't need to worry about adapting my schedule to other people's, so I can really listen to what my body needs. And you know what else? I learned to enjoy moments of solitude. At first, I confess that sometimes I felt a bit lonely, but over time I realized that these moments are precious for reflection and self-knowledge. Now when I feel alone, I pick up a book, call a friend, or simply go for a walk in the park. These are small actions that make a big difference in my well-being. Of course, not all days are perfect. Sometimes I still feel sad or anxious, but the difference is that now I have the tools and the space to deal with these emotions in a healthy way. I can cry if I need to, I can be quiet if I want to, without worrying about bothering anyone, strengthening relationships. My young friend, it may seem contradictory, but living alone actually improved my relationships a lot. You know why? Because now, when I meet friends and family, it's because I really want to, not out of obligation or convenience. For example, every Thursday afternoon I meet with my group of friends in the park to play dominoes. It's a moment I look forward to all week. We talk, laugh, share stories. And the best part is that since we don't see each other every day, we always have news to tell. With my children and grandchildren, the relationship has also become more special. They visit me on weekends, and these are precious moments. I prepare their favorite lunch. We listen to music together, and sometimes we even have an impromptu karaoke session in the living room. Since we're not together all the time, we value these encounters more. Another interesting thing is that I started corresponding more with old friends. You know those friends from your youth that you lose touch with over time? Well, I started writing letters to them. Yes, real letters, on paper. It's an immense joy to receive a response and relive old memories and new friendships. They also flourish. I started attending a book club at the neighborhood library. There I met wonderful people with whom I share a love for books. We have fascinating discussions, and sometimes go out for coffee after the meetings. But you know what's most beautiful? I learned to value the quality of interactions, not the quantity. Before, sometimes I felt obligated to participate in social events even when I didn't want to. Now, I carefully choose how and with whom I spend my time, and that makes all the difference. And I can't forget to mention how technology has helped me stay in touch with loved ones. I learned to use WhatsApp, and now I make video calls with my sister who lives in another state. It's almost like we're in the same room. Independence and confidence. My dear, living alone is like a school of life where you learn something new every day. And you know what I've been learning the most? To trust myself and my ability to solve problems. I remember when the kitchen faucet started leaking. In the past, I would have immediately called a plumber, but this time I decided to try to fix it myself. I watched some videos on the internet, bought the necessary tools, and after a few attempts, and I confess some frustrations, I managed to solve the problem. The feeling of accomplishment was incredible. Or when I decided to learn to cook more elaborate dishes, I started with simple recipes and gradually gained confidence. Today, I make a beef stroganoff that's the pride of the family. And the best part is that I can experiment with new flavors and techniques without fear of making mistakes or displeasing someone. This independence extends to all aspects of life. I learned to take care of my finances, to do small repairs around the house, to solve problems with the computer. Each challenge overcome is an injection of confidence, and you know what's most interesting? This confidence overflows into other areas of life. I feel more secure in expressing my opinions, in trying new things, and even in making new friendships. It's as if each small victory of everyday life reminded me that I'm capable of much more than I imagined. For example, the other day I decided to take a trip alone. For the first time, I chose a small town in the countryside that I always wanted to visit. I confess that at first, I was a bit apprehensive. Would I be able to manage on my own? What if something went wrong? But you know what? It was one of the best experiences of my life. I explored the town at my own pace, talked with the locals, tried the regional cuisine, and most importantly, I proved to myself that I can venture out into the world, even alone. This independence also taught me to ask for help when I really need it, without feeling diminished by it. I learned that I don't need to do everything alone to be independent. True independence is knowing when I can solve something on my own and when it's better to seek assistance. Rediscovery of simple pleasures. My young friend, living alone made me rediscover the beauty of the simple things in life. You know those small moments that often go unnoticed in the hustle and bustle of daily life? Well, now I have time to truly appreciate them. For example, the pleasure of having a peaceful breakfast. I wake up early, prepare my fresh coffee, get a warm bread that I bought at the corner bakery, and sit on the porch to enjoy the sunrise. It's a moment just for me, of peace and contemplation that helps me start the day on the right foot. Or the simple act of reading a good book. I have a comfortable armchair near the window, where I spend hours immersed in fascinating stories. Sometimes I pause my reading just to observe a bird that has landed on the branch of the tree in the backyard. These are moments of pure joy and connection with the world around me. Gardening became another simple pleasure that I rediscovered. I have a small garden in the backyard, where I grow some herbs and flowers. The contact with the earth, the care for the plants, the satisfaction of seeing something grow, thanks to my effort. All of this brings me a sense of fulfillment and peace that's hard to explain. And the walks. Every late afternoon, I take a walk around the neighborhood. I observe the changes in the houses, the trees that bloom according to the season, greet the neighbors. It's a moment of physical exercise, of course, but also of connection with the community and with nature. Another thing I learned to appreciate was silence. Sometimes I simply sit in the living room without the TV or radio on and listen to the sounds of the house and the street, the ticking of the clock, the wind in the tree leaves, the distant barking of a dog. It's surprising how these moments of quietness can be comforting and invigorating. Cooking also became a simple pleasure that I rediscovered. Cooking for myself allows me to experiment with new flavors and recipes without fear of making mistakes. Sometimes I spend the whole afternoon preparing a special dish, just for the pleasure of creating something with my own hands. And when it turns out delicious, the satisfaction is doubled. And you know what else? I learned to appreciate solitude itself. There's a beauty in being alone, in having time for your thoughts, to reflect on life, to simply be. It's in these moments that I often find valuable insights about myself and about the world. Final reflections. Living alone at this stage of life, I realize that each day is a new opportunity for learning and growth. Of course, there are challenges. Sometimes loneliness weighs heavy. There are days when household chores seem endless, and occasionally I miss having someone to share the small moments of everyday life with. But you know what? These challenges are also opportunities. Loneliness taught me to be my own companion, to enjoy my own company. Household chores became a form of exercise and a way to keep my mind active. And as for the small moments of the day, well, I learned to share them with myself, to value them even more. Living alone taught me a lot about resilience. I learned that I am stronger and more capable than I imagined. Each problem solved, each new learning, each day lived fully is a personal victory. It also taught me about gratitude. I'm grateful for the health that allows me to live independently, for the friends and family who, even at a distance, are always present in my heart, and for the opportunity to live this phase of life with such a wealth of experiences. And you know what's most beautiful? I realize that it's never too late to start over, to reinvent yourself. Each day is a blank page, a new chance to write the story of my life exactly the way I want. Living alone in your golden years doesn't mean being alone. It means having the freedom to choose how to live, who to spend time with, how to spend your time. It's having the opportunity to truly know yourself, to become your own best friend. So, my young friend, if one day you find yourself living alone, remember, it's not the end of a journey but the beginning of a new adventure. An adventure of self-discovery, personal growth, of appreciation for life in all its nuances. And always remember, life is too precious to be lived halfway. Every moment is a gift. Every experience is a treasure. Live fully, love deeply, including yourself, and never stop marveling at the small joys that life offers every day. After all, as they say, it's not age that defines youth, but spirit. And living alone, well, that can be the perfect opportunity to keep that young and adventurous spirit always alive.